Hi, and welcome to Waiver Wire with Ross the Boss and Casey Flat to the Bone Shinefold. We're coming from you live from La La, California. I'm excited. Casey, are you excited about football this first month?
I am enjoying football. Yeah. It made me forget about baseball, which wasn't good for my fantasy baseball teams, but I've been enjoying the fantasy football so far.
Yeah, well, the past 2 months, you kind of not checked your rosters.
I noticed that. I just went. I even forgot.
Noticed you did it on purpose because you want a better draft pick next season. I know.
Yeah.
I'm not an idiot.
Hey.
But I actually won our league, so there you go.
Mazel tov. Well
Casey,
done.
We're first month, and we'll talk about waiver wire in a second, who you should pick up this week. But let's talk about the first month of football, and I'll mention a few topics. I just want to get your little rant in there. Let's talk about Derrick Henry and the Ravens. He went nuts this weekend. I mean,
yeah,
he was crazy. I mean, he's running full stride right now. I mean, I think the guy. I think if they just hand the ball off to him and let him do what he does, I don't think Baltimore can lose. What do you think?
Well, I mean, clearly they can lose, but it gives them such a dimension that they've never had before. I mean, not since probably, was it Jamal Lewis? Who did they have way back in the day who was so good for them?
Jamal Lewis is good. That's a good one.
It's just Lamar Jackson doesn't have to worry about running as much, which might be bad for his fantasy value on some level, but certainly protecting him is better for the Ravens going forward.
So last week he ran for like 199 yards. He had a big run in the first quarter. He almost ran 22 miles an hour for a 30-year-old guy. That's pretty good.
I know. And for his size, not just his age, but he's also huge.
Let's talk about what's happening in Jacksonville, Casey Shinefold.
Oh, God.
I mean, people had high expectations for this team. Even myself. I didn't think they would be as bad as they are. What's your take on Jacksonville? Do you think it's just going to be do you think fantasy-wise, do you think any of their players are relevant anymore?
Wow. I mean, ETN I still like, although he's a buy low candidate now, I think, because of their underperforming. Tank Bigsby ran pretty well this week. Wide receiver wise, Christian Kirk maybe is fantasy relevant. Evan Engram maybe, but wow, Trevor Lawrence. I sent you that message today. The first 4 picks of that 21 NFL draft were Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and the other goose egg this weekend, Kyle Pitts at tight end.
Ooh, we'll talk about that.
That's horrible.
Horrible. Let's talk about the league MVP right now. And you can argue with me, but if I had to vote right now for league MVP, Sam Darnold, come on down and get your trophy because he's 4-0. He's playing quarterback from Minnesota. And Casey, who else do you give it to?
I mean, Baker Mayfield has to be considered because he's been doing pretty well. And I think Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley are also kind of carrying their teams. But yeah, my vote would be for Sam Darnold. But he's got to win like comeback player of the year or something. Albert Mariquin and the real Tommy V, hello to both of you guys. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Please ask us any questions or give us any of your observations.
Casey, the Kansas City Chiefs have some major injuries. Major injuries in offense. I mean, they're missing Rice is going to be out for a while. I don't know if you saw that injury. Their starting running back's going to be out for a while.
Pacheco, yeah.
Pacheco. I mean.
Yeah, Rice, they're fearing. And did they determine whether it was an ACL tear or not yet?
I haven't heard. They said Wednesday we'll find out. So I'm waiting for Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. I think it's not good. They carted him away. I mean, he didn't.
Well, you saw the way Mahomes rolled into him on that fumble recovery stuff.
Yeah.
So, ooh.
And then the 49ers have major injuries too. And again, they only have one loss. So I know these major injuries are hurting these top teams, but they're so well balanced and stacked and have great.
And in fairness, both teams have elite defenses and their injuries aren't to the defensive side. So they have enough weapons on offense and an elite defense that they're able to weather it so far, but who knows how long that can last. It feels like the Chiefs are 4-0 and haven't and might have a less than like plus 10 or plus 12 point differential at this point. They just keep winning these close games.
Patrick Mahomes is the key factor in that situation. Let's talk waiver wire. That's why we're on the air today, Casey. And I'll put you on the spot. How about that? Who's your number one pickup for this week in waiver wire?
Justin Fields. I mean, I think it's got to be. He's only 33% owned. I think he put up over 40 fantasy points last week with that performance. And you have some teams going into the bye this week, including Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts. So some real quarterbacks who are going on bye weeks that people are relying on. And if you can get Justin Fields as a bye week fill-in, that's insane.
I think that's a good pickup. And I'm going to do a segment after this one called Who Are Dropping This Week Forever. And one of the guys I have is Justin Herbert. I mean, he has not thrown for over 200 yards yet.
Yeah.
Just because, that's what Harbaugh does. He doesn't throw the ball. He likes to run the ball. And it's working. I mean, they're playing well. But Herbert's just drop him. Don't keep him. Pick up Fields. Pick up anybody but him. I mean, he's just not good. So my number one pickup for the week, this is tough, Casey. I'll say our cover guy, Kareem Hunt, because Kansas City gave him the ball a lot last week. I think he's going to be the feature back, for a while.
Yeah.
4 more weeks.
Once Carson Steele fumbled the ball, I don't think he got back in, did he?
Yeah. And that's
so
in 2 weeks. So
Kareem Hunt has been notoriously inefficient as a running back the last 2 years or 3 years, but just volume alone, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a little more versatile, and Mahomes likes him. You put those together, and it's the Chiefs' offense who's missing Rice and Pacheco, and there's going to be a lot of chance for them. If Kelsey can't perform now or produce now, there's zero excuse.
Now, we got the bad news in Indianapolis, Casey, that Jonathan Taylor is going to be out for at least a couple of weeks. I hate to say that, but because I have him in our league. His backup, Trey Sermon, did I say it right?
Out of Ohio State, yeah.
What's your take on him? Is it somebody you want to pick up this week? What are we doing with him?
Do I want to pick him up this week? If I'm Jonathan Taylor owner, yes. And he's going to be a top probably 10 pickup coming into this week. With Joe Flacco, the question is it going to be Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco? There's a lot of variables moving there in Indianapolis right now. If I can avoid it, I'd like to, but if you're in a pinch and you have between bye weeks and injuries, he's probably the top running back, maybe the second running back to pick up this week. The top one to me is Rico Dowdle, who I think in Dallas has established himself. Anybody who still believes in Zeke is crazy. I don't think the guy's gotten more than 20 yards in the last 3 weeks. And Dowdle is getting the volume there. He's not Derrick Henry. He's not Saquon Barkley where he gets 90% of the carries, but he's the number one, and it's a good offense. So I think Dowdle has to be your top running back.
Just so you know, Zeke is on my droppable list too. If you have Zeke, just drop him today. No reason to keep him.
People only keep him because of name value, because it's Zeke, right? And they remember the, jumping into the Salvation Army bucket and the spoon feeding himself, that sort of stuff.
Casey, who else do you have on your waiver wire list that I should be picking up this week? It's getting, these next few weeks are so important with waiver wire pickups. I can't stress more that you got to make moves. You got to get rid of. If you have a backup tight end, get rid of it. Even if you have a backup quarterback, I would get rid of it because you don't need to have a quarterback. If it's 10-person league, especially, get rid of it. You don't need it.
Well, I think I love Dontavian Wicks in Green Bay. I think Jordan Love likes him. Christian Watson is dealing with a low-grade high ankle sprain, which can keep
those are
him
painful.
Right, and he's been known to miss time. So I think Dontavian Wicks would go into that receiver spot for him. Wan'Dale Robinson caught 11 balls last week. There's nothing sexy about him. He's not going to get you like the big plays, but 11 balls and you're in a PPR league, you're already looking at least 15, 16, 17 points. And he is behind Malik Neighbors. He's the top volume getter. And Malik Neighbors, we're assuming he's going to come back and be cleared from his concussion by next week. But until we see him practice a couple days, who the heck knows? Here's one I want. Tyler Algier is a good. I mean, he shouldn't be taking runs away from Bijan Robinson because Robinson's that good, but he's getting meaningful ones. Bucky Irving in Tampa Bay is getting it from Rashad White. Tank Dell in Jacksonville is getting them from ETN. Tucker Kraft is getting balls in Green Bay too. So, look, real Tommy V just said that. Good for you, Tommy V. I agree. Tucker Kraft is the number one tight end to pick up right now. So there's players out there. If you want to go really deep, with the news that CMC has Achilles tendonitis now in both Achilles, which sounds really bad for him. Who's Jordan Mason's primary backup? Isaac Guerrendo. That's
a great quiz question. Kid. I would never get that answer in a million years.
And so he's somebody, especially if I have Jordan Mason, who's been a great running back for you, but he isn't always the most durable. I'd get somebody like Isaac Guerrendo. So there's a lot of names out there. Guerrendo. If Nick Chubb happens to be out there on your waiver wire, I know he's over 60% owned, but because he's on the IR, people don't think of him. He's eligible to come off this week. Jerome Ford hasn't been great, but he's been good. And I think they have the Redskins this week, don't they? So
I love how you said Redskins. I love that.
Sorry, Commanders. Sorry.
No, I love it. I commend you. I applaud you.
It's a pretty tasty matchup there as well. So there's some guys to grab.
Okay, I'm going to name a few players. These are players that I like. I still like Braylon Allen. He's getting the ball and goal line for the Jets, if that means anything to you. I like that looked good the past 2 weeks is Justice Hill for Baltimore. I know they have Henry, but he catches the ball. He runs the ball in for touchdowns. I mean, this guy.
Yeah, and they're going to try to keep Henry healthy and fresh. Yeah. So they'll probably give him stretches where he's just not playing.
What's your take on Trey Tucker for the Raiders? Because Adams is out.
Well, Adams, I think so. And correct me if I'm wrong. You're more tapped into this stuff than I am. Is the inference I heard is that Antonio Pierce's business decisions comment was targeted towards Devontae Adams? Is that, and Adams is responding to that?
Yes.
And now Antonio Pierce liked a social media post about trading Devontae Adams?
Yes, so all that is true.
If that happens, Jacoby Myers becomes the default number one, and he's been doing pretty darn good in that offense.
Has been really good.
And if that happens, then you got to consider Trey.
I see Devontae being traded. I see his Taco Bell franchise at his house being traded. I see Devontae going to a contender, somebody that wants to win now because his salary is huge. It's all about money. But I see that trade happening next couple of weeks.
Where do you think he's going to go? Who can afford him at this point?
Well, if they can defer, they can have the team that's trading him pay half his salary.
I mean, would they trade in division, give him to Mahomes and the Chiefs with Rice being out?
If they can get a first-round draft pick from one of these teams, I think they would trade him because I don't think the Raiders are going to.
Maybe Matt Stafford with Kupp and.
I don't see him coming to LA. I don't see him coming here.
I'm just trying to think of teams that have a quarterback that need a wide receiver. Maybe the Jets.
It'd be a great place for him, and they're playing great football. And I love their quarterback, and I think he's one of the stories we should have talked about. Is Jalen Daniels of the Washington Commanders,
Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, and I even said that over Khalid Williams. Arizona State, and he for 2 years.
LSU. Everybody knows him from LSU.
But yes, I mean, can you imagine him with that offense with Jalen Daniel? Can you imagine him playing?
Jaden, yeah. The other one. What if the number 2 receiver there in New York and pair him with Aaron Rodgers again?
They're friends.
Yeah.
They still talk. I know that for a fact. I know they follow each other on the social medias.
Maybe Josh Allen gets him in Buffalo, since they need a number 1 too.
Okay, I'm going to name a couple receivers. You tell me waive or don't waive. Waiver pickup or you're not picking them up. Lad McConkey.
Oh, absolutely. I'm picking him up.
Okay. Darnell Mooney of Atlanta.
He is the deep threat there, and Kirk Cousins has been making him count, so I like it.
Oh wow, I'm like 2 for 2 with you. Usually you don't like any of my picks. And you know, tight end wise, I like Zach Ertz also. If I had to name somebody like Zach Ertz as a tight end, I like Kraft for Green Bay.
Yep.
Tyson Hill had a great game for New Orleans. I don't know what percentage he is, but if he's available at tight end,
he's at 33%. Now, Taysom Hill, the issue with him is he'll have a 3 touchdown game and then 3 goose eggs and then a 3 touchdown. So
I know
you're throwing darts trying to pick the week.
Fire. I get it. Defenses this week, Casey. Then we'll talk about my droppable people I'm getting rid of. I like this. I like the Seattle Seahawks playing the Giants. I like Seattle's defense at home. What do you think about that matchup?
The 12th man, and the Giants are pretty turnover prone.
I like Denver at home against the Raiders.
That's my favorite one.
So defenses,
you know what also I like is as weird as this sounds, New England at home against the Miami Dolphins.
How bad did they look last night, Casey?
I mean,
wow.
So who would you rather have right now? Xavier Legette or Jalen Waddle?
Okay, good. You did the Waddle. I can answer the question now. I would still keep Waddle over Legette. I like Legette though, but I mean, it's just a shame all these big weapons in Miami are not relevant. I mean, they're not even like top 10 receivers without 2 of there.
They're not even number 2s right now.
No, I mean, it's all these people that wasted their pick on Tariq Hill are probably kicking themselves. Do you trade and try to get Hill, or do you just?
I would try to buy him low, I think. But how stupid? I mean, not to get off of fantasy football for a second, but how stupid are the Miami Dolphins? You have Tua, who I'm a fan. I'm a Bama kid, but one more hit and he could be out for life, and you don't prioritize getting a quality backup quarterback in the offseason.
No,
you're like, we'll be fine with Skylar Thompson or whomever else we can pick off the bottom of the barrel. Why would you not make sure you have insurance for Tua when you have an offense that's all high octane because your quarterback gets rid of the ball quick?
Just bad GM. They spend so money on Tariq Hill. They spend money in different areas. Waddle, Hill. I mean, that's where all their money is. It's not backup quarterback. They make decisions, and that's what they decided. Was it the right decision? No. Let's talk players that I'm dropping this week. How about that? Players that, if you're making a waiver wire claim, these guys can be the person you drop. How about that?
I'm ready.
Top of my list, Gabe Davis.
Oh, absolutely.
Waive him immediately. He should no longer be on your team. Gabe Davis is a great person to waive. Because sometimes it's tough to pick a player to waive. You know what I mean? It's not easy. I mean, I get in a number of situations where I'm flipping a coin. Who's off my team because my team's so stacked. Another guy that I'm getting rid of, as much as I love him because he played for the Commanders last year, is Antonio Gibson of New England. I'm saying to myself, well, he comes in during the goal line. He'd be great. Well, New England doesn't get to the goal line. So what's the point? You know what I mean? There's no point of having a guy coming in for the goal.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson's been pretty disappointing too.
Yeah, well, we knew going into it that New England's offense was going to be horrible, and they are. I mentioned Justin Herbert. If you have Herbert, he has not thrown for 200 yards yet this season. And I know he has no receivers there. I know pass is not the first thing they think of in the Chargers organization. I get it. But I would waive Herbert. You don't need him on your team. You're not going to start him. You're not going to play him. Plenty of guys on waiver wire you can pick up. Adam Thielen of Carolina, he's out for like 4 weeks. He's quadriceps.
Yeah, he's got a something lower leg, knee, Achilles, something like that.
Something like that. He's out. So if you have room on your IR, I guess if you want to keep him on your IR, if you don't, waive him immediately.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Zeke also. Zeke is somebody that is just useless. There's no reason to have him on your team. He's not scoring touchdowns. He's not getting yards. Just waive him. Get rid of him. And then another guy that I'm cutting, if he's on your roster, is Jalen Warren of Pittsburgh, Casey. He's just horrible. I mean, he's hurt. He's horrible. Harris had a good game last week. I would cut ties with Warren, but that's me. Casey, anybody on your roster that you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to waive this week?
Wow. On my roster, well, let me look at my roster.
Let's look at Casey Scheinfeld's roster. He has all top round picks.
Who might I drop? Well, I have Javonte Williams and Ramondre Stevenson as running backs. I think.
So Javonte had 71 yards last week. It's not bad.
So I think Adonai Mitchell hasn't been doing anything.
I would waive him. He's gone.
What about Will Levis?
Oh, he was one of your big picks.
I liked him in the preseason. Yeah,
he's one of your big picks. He's a big flop.
Yeah, so those are some guys I would look at.
I mean,
what do you do if you wasted draft capital on Mark Andrews at this point?
Mark Andrews is on the danger zone. He's on the borderline of being waived. One more bad game, him and Pitts are both gone.
Yeah.
Just one more bad game from either of you guys next week. I'm waiving you.
That's pretty harsh.
Well, Pitts is the Pitts. Andrews has been dropping the ball.
What do you do? Good. What do you do with Brandon Ayuk? Your
ASU,
Arizona State boy.
He's
been terrible.
I would trade him if I was the 49ers. And being a fantasy owner, you should pray that he gets traded. He needs a different scenery. He's not playing well in San Francisco. Purdy's just looking for different receivers now. I think he gave up on him in all seriousness. Jennings is getting the ball a lot. Kittle,
Debo will be back soon enough.
Yeah. So I think he played last week, right? Debo?
Did he?
I thought I saw him out there. Yeah.
He might have. I didn't watch the game.
Yeah. So. Well, you're Becky's. But I think that I see Ayuk being traded. I think him and Adams will be traded.
Is it time to drop Michael Pittman?
One of the guys I like to pick up this week is I like Downs a lot, actually. Pittman had an okay game. I thought he had an okay game last week.
Let's see. Michael Pittman last week he did because Joe Flacco. So I guess if Flacco's the quarterback, he's worth it. Otherwise, he hasn't had more than 35 yards in a game.
No, and I bet is under for the season. And
so would you trade Bijan, and I'm assuming that's Juwan Jennings, for Jahmyr Gibbs, George Kittle, and DeAndre Swift?
Question mark. Okay. So
if you're asking me, the answer is yes.
So who am I getting?
You're getting rid of Bijan and Juwan Jennings. You're adding Jahmyr Gibbs, George Kittle, and DeAndre Swift. It depends, I guess, how deep your
okay, so let's review.
Depends how deep your wide receivers are, because you're giving up.
Swift had a huge game last week. That's his first big game of the year. Okay, so his stock is a little high this week just because he had a breakout game. Kittle's getting the ball in San Francisco, and Gibbs, as you know, I love in Detroit, but Bijan Robinson, top 3 running back every week. Casey Scheinfeld. I would probably do that. I would do that. I would get Gibbs and Kittle. I like that, actually.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, again, if my running backs are deep enough, my wide receivers, this past week, Bijan only had 7 rushes for 28 yards and 4 receptions for 46. He only has 1 touchdown on the season. He's currently ranked 74th.
I'm not disagreeing. And I think Jennings had that big game with 3 touchdowns. I don't see him doing that every week.
Not with Debo back, but
yeah. So, yeah.
Look, if you do it, you'll have some weeks where you're really happy you did it and some weeks where you regret it. If you have the wide receivers where Jennings isn't a week in, week out player, it makes a lot of sense for you.
I agree. I mean, it's a good trade. It's an interesting trade, though. It's pretty even, I would say. It's not like a lopsided deal. I'm saying, oh, my, you're getting ripped off or you're ripping this guy off. It's very close. I like it.
Should I trade Marvin Harrison Jr. for Tyreek Hill? No. No, I would not. No. He already has He already has St. Brown, Pittman, Cup, and Jaden Reed. No, look, Tyreek Hill, if Tua comes back in a few weeks, Tyreek Hill, I would want him over MHJ. But here's the problem with that. Tua comes back in 3 weeks, gets sacked again because it wasn't a hard hit that knocked him out. He gets sacked again and he could be gone for the season just like that. And as much as I like Huntley as a pickup, if you're desperate at quarterback in super flex leagues, Marvin Harrison Jr. has already proven that Kyler Murray's going to get him the football and he's going to find the end zone. He's not the dynamic after the catch guy that Tyreek Hill is, but wow, I'm not.
Yeah, we discussed earlier, Casey, that Miami's offense is not what they were predicted to be. I agree with you 100%. I just feel.
How do I upgrade my running back position? Javier, you have Jonathan Taylor, Jordan Mason, Brian Robinson, Braylon Allen, DeAndre Swift, and Tony Pollard.
So let me.
I mean, look, if you were me, if you look for one of those top 5 running backs and they don't have any depth behind them, you package a couple of those running backs, like maybe give Jonathan, if you think Jonathan Taylor is not going to come back in 2 weeks, and it could be longer, because otherwise, if you look at what Pollard did last week and you look at what Swift did last week, and Jordan Mason is doing it week in and week out, I don't know how much you can upgrade.
How about Brian Robinson? He did great last week.
They're all doing well. Are any of them Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson? No, they're not. What you can do, if you think C-Mac is coming back, why don't you package Mason and something else to C-Mac owners who are desperate right now and see if you can get them? But
I don't think I would answer that question real quick. C-Mac is not coming back.
I would stand pat with that.
This is going to be the first time in fantasy football history that a first pick of a draft didn't play one play. First ever. It's never happened before in fantasy football where the number 1 pick in the draft did not play one down. I mean, there's been situations where players get hurt the first game, but not playing at all. And you're taking him as your first pick after Ross the boss told you not to take him because of health issues, and you take him anyway, you deserve to lose. That's all I got to say.
All right. Now, and I'll get back to you, Daniel Caps. I'm sorry. All in One Show was the one who asked about trading Bijan and Jennings for Gibbs, Kittle, and Swift. His other wide receivers are Flowers, Zay Flowers, Drake London, and Jalen Waddle. I would almost rather at this point, if it's not a keeper league, if it's a redraft league, I might rather trade Bijan and Waddle and keep Jennings, because at least Jennings has a quarterback.
Is Tua coming back anytime soon? What's the deal with him? Do you know?
You know, I heard something that Adam Schefter may have reported. He should be back in a few weeks, but
what was that?
I haven't confirmed it. So I don't know. But you know, if Jennings has a good rapport with Brock Purdy,
obviously he does. I mean,
then I might rather have Flowers, London, and Juwan Jennings right now than Flowers, London, and
because I'm worried about Miami's offense without Tua. I think they're just a dead team. I watched them last night. I tried not to watch them. I was watching the Detroit game, which was 20 times better.
Yeah, I turned that one off quick, the Miami-Tennessee game.
Oh, my
God. All right, I want to get back to Daniel Caps. I have 2 tight ends, okay, but somebody dropped McBride. It's a no-brainer to use him as my number one waiver wire on him, right? Depends who your other 2 tight ends are, I guess.
I would pick up McBride.
And QB is Kyler, so it's a stack. I probably would pick up McBride and drop one of those tight ends if they're just okay, because obviously Trey McBride is an upgrade.
Yeah, I would pick up Big McBride in a second.
Daniel, I think we agree there, but I don't know who your other 2 tight ends are to tell you which one to drop.
I like Big McBride. I think he can if he gets on track, he can win you the league. So definitely pick him up.
And if you have 2, he has Brock Bowers and Evan Engram. Wow. I wouldn't
drop
Brock Bowers.
I would say Brock Bowers is not okay. I think he's good.
He's good. Evan Engram is okay, and Jacksonville right now is atrocious. So I would try to trade Engram if I could.
No one's going to give you $1. No one's going to give you a penny for Ingram.
Who knows?
It's called a drop.
Try to do a 2-for-1. I don't know, but okay.
I would try to trade.
I would drop Ingram and pick up McBride.
I would keep Bowers and McBride. I'm worried about McBride's health. I don't know when he's coming back.
Yeah, he's got the concussion, although I think he's back practicing. Let me check.
Maybe. Okay, Case. Well, thanks, folks, for watching. We'll be back Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific. And keep the questions coming. We love answering questions, trade talks. We love it all. And we're excited for the games coming up next week. Make sure you get your waiver wire stuff in tonight, because tonight is usually the big night where everybody decides who gets what. Casey, any final words from Casey Scheinfeld?
No, I don't think
so.
No
encouraging stuff.
We covered it.
You're not watching baseball today, Casey. You're not.
I have been watching. See, I'm a soccer guy, so I've been watching Champions League updates. I know my Arsenal Gooners were up 2-0 at halftime.
Yeah, that's like watching get grass grow. Yeah, I mean Arsenal. You're watching Premier Soccer. I'll watch the World Cup, and maybe that's it. That's all I watch. Okay, Casey, go Yankees. We'll find out what they do this weekend. And a few words about Pete Rose. I was a lucky guy to actually meet him more than once. I met him at least 5 or 6 times. Just an iconic person in baseball. And it makes me sad that he didn't get to go in the Hall of Fame, that he died without his one wish in life.
Seeing that. Yeah, he should have. 35 years was way too long to punish him.
Yeah, I know he bet on baseball. I know he bet on the Reds. He never bet him to lose. But it's just sad. But his health has been deteriorating the past couple of years. And
we also lost Dikembe Mutombo.
We lost John Amos.
John Amos died. Yeah, McDowell's. I happened to live in Philadelphia when Mutombo was traded there in the middle of the season and brought them to the finals with Allen Iverson. Man, he lit up that city. It was an incredible time, and he always had a smile on his face.
I know you're not the NBA guy, but he's a great humanitarian. This guy, he built.
Yeah, he was an ambassador for
built churches in his African town. I mean, he's just like
a great loss.
He's just like a great humanitarian, and anytime anybody does this, I always think of him. But thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry for getting off track and talking about some deaths, but I thought they were pretty important people.
They are.
And we'll see everybody on Thursday on MFSN. I'm Ross the Boss, and that's Casey Vladson.